Hello and welcome to our learning series on Agile transformation, a learning series brought to you by Sternbridge Technology Consulting. I'm the host, Kenny Gibbons, and I'll be taking you through this learning course. Welcome back to the Agile Transformation Learning Series. Today's episode is episode 8 of the Agile Transformation Learning Series. In today's episode, we will cover an introduction to scaling Agile practices through SAFe, a framework that I have seen commonly used within life sciences organizations. This session is part of our broader progression across the learning series. Earlier episodes introduced Agile fundamentals, Scrum practices, common team-level Agile delivery challenges, and how those challenges become broader when organizations attempt to scale Agile ways of working across all of their teams. This episode sits at the point where the discussion moves from how should one team work to how should the enterprise coordinate teams. Agile team methods are essential. Scrum and Kanban are still the foundation for a lot of effective delivery, but the organization eventually reaches a point where strong teams are no longer enough by themselves. Once many teams, systems, and leadership layers are involved, the challenge becomes structural. This is where scaled operating models enter the picture. Once the enterprise sees why scale creates friction, the natural next question becomes, what kind of framework helps solve that? This is where Agile scaling frameworks appear. In this episode, we will discuss how these frameworks aim to solve these scaling challenges. We will use a framework called SAFe, the Scaled Agile Framework, as this one of the most commonly used frameworks in the life sciences industry. We will cover the SAFe basics and how it applies in life sciences environments. One note I want to mention, in this episode, my examples are going to be primarily around IT organizations. However, SAFe as a framework can be applied to any organization trying to manage a portfolio of initiatives or projects in a more agile and consistent process. These could be engineering, capital projects, or other transformation initiatives. Lastly, I like to spend every episode give a quick synopsis of the prior episode, as they are intended to build off of each other. In the previous episode, we covered 5 main challenges in scaling Agile across an organization. The first, how team-level Agile has its limits and how teams can interact and manage complex, multi-team deliverables. The second covered organizational challenges in how teams coordinate and plan. Third, how leadership layers add complexity, and how strong governance and communication needs to occur to keep hundreds, sometimes thousands of people aligned. The fourth, how dependencies can become a bottleneck to delivery if not planned and managed well. And lastly, the reason as to why scaled Agile frameworks were created. In today's episode, we will start to discuss how one of those scaling frameworks, SAFe, aims to address these problems. So with that, let's jump into today's discussion. Scaling is difficult in life sciences because the environment is complex, cross-functional, and highly constrained. Add business stakeholders, budget planning, and steering committees to that mix, and it can quickly become a tangled mess to try to keep everyone on the same page and align to what the organization is trying to accomplish. If we look at manufacturing IT within life sciences, the organization must support many processes that directly and indirectly affect operations. Core systems alone can include large, complex process enablement like manufacturing operations management, enterprise resource planning, quality management, and others. This doesn't include security, infrastructure, and data platforms, operational technology systems, or artificial intelligence initiatives. All of this becomes even more complex when you consider regulatory and compliance conformance throughout the process. If the IT organization is not connected to a common vision and execution strategy, it can quickly devolve into a free-for-all across teams. Delivery in this environment requires coordination across many groups. In many cases, a release has consequences beyond software. A change can affect production workflows, electronic records, audit trails, batch release timing, or inspection readiness. That means priorities often compete in hard ways. One leadership team may prioritize compliance remediation. Another may prioritize harmonization across sites. Another may push for analytics modernization or AI use cases. All of those priorities may be valid, but without a stronger coordination structure, they create fragmentation. This pattern is not unique to manufacturing or IT organizations in general. Any large portfolio with competing demands and stakeholders need a common governance and execution structure. This is why SAFe becomes relevant. It gives the enterprise a blueprint for how to structure and govern large, complex initiatives and portfolios, while balancing the benefits of Agile. A useful way to explain SAFe is that it is a framework for alignment, coordination, and scalable delivery. First, SAFe helps align strategy to execution. This matters because strategy often lives at the leadership level while delivery happens lower in the organization. Teams may know what they are building, but they do not always understand how that work supports a broader enterprise objective. SAFe helps make that relationship more explicit. For example, a business objective such as improving manufacturing cycle time or increasing supply reliability should not remain a high level aspiration. Through a scaled framework, that objective becomes visible in the delivery system and starts shaping priorities, sequencing, and resource allocation. Second, SAFe helps coordinate multiple teams inside one delivery system. That is especially valuable when work spans across several functions such as business processes, infrastructure, data, security, and validation. Coordination becomes even more important when teams are distributed across regions, business units, or functional silos. Third, SAFe improves delivery at scale by reducing fragmentation. Fragmentation is often the real source of poor performance in large enterprises. Teams may work hard, yet duplicate effort, miss dependencies, or drift from common priorities. SAFe introduces shared cadence and clearer planning structures to reduce that drift. In my experience, I often see that cross-team dependencies become the bottleneck in delivery execution. If teams don't have a process for communicating and prioritizing these dependencies, they end up delaying entire initiatives and only get discussed when they become large issues. The key idea is that SAFe is not meant to make every team faster in isolation. SAFe is meant to make the overall enterprise system work better. At the center of SAFe are three layers that each serve a different purpose: portfolio, program, and teams. Depending on the organization and the type of SAFe implementation, how these get implemented may change, but the core still remains. The portfolio layer handles strategic direction. This is where major enterprise priorities are translated into investment themes and transformation decisions. This layer determines which enterprise initiatives deserve capacity, funding, and long-term sponsorship, including the biggest business and technology decisions like manufacturing harmonization, data modernization, or quality system transformation. This is where leaders balance competing priorities against overall business outcomes. The program layer coordinates execution across many teams. This is where strategic intent becomes a multi-team delivery mission. This layer translates strategy into coordinated multi-team delivery. The layer aligns teams around one delivery mission with a shared planning and execution model, such as managing dependencies, synchronizing releases, and keeping multiple teams focused on the same objectives. This is often where Agile release trains and program increment planning become important. The team layer is where the work is actually built, configured, tested, and prepared for release. Teams operate in iterations and deliver the functional, technical, and operational outputs required by the broader program. They turn enterprise priorities into usable capabilities, most effective when well connected to the program and portfolio layers above. This distinction is important because scaling often fails when organizations blur these responsibilities. Teams get asked to solve strategic alignment problems they cannot control. Senior leaders try to solve operational coordination problems without enough delivery visibility. Programs try to move forward without enough clarity from either side. A scaled model works better when each layer has a clear role and when the layers connect cleanly. The layering also enables a natural escalation and communication pathway connecting execution teams and portfolio decisions. If the portfolio layer is unclear, teams may work hard on the wrong things. If the program layer is weak, teams may perform well locally, but still fail to move together. If the team layer is inconsistent, strong strategy and coordination still will not translate into actual outcomes. Let's start with the portfolio level. The portfolio layer is where strategic investment and direction are set. In a manufacturing IT context, this often means deciding where major effort and funding should go across the enterprise landscape. These are not small decisions. They compete for funding, leadership attention, delivery capacity, and architectural focus. A helpful example is a global manufacturer choosing between several strategic initiatives. The company may need to compare an initiative to standardize manufacturing execution systems across sites, a serialization upgrade for compliance, or a manufacturing analytics platform for network-level insight. Portfolio leadership helps compare those options against enterprise outcomes, such as site harmonization, inspection readiness, throughput improvement, resilience, and digital maturity. If you're not in manufacturing, this same pattern applies. In commercial organizations, portfolio decisions may involve CRM modernization, omnichannel content platforms, and field insights. In enabling functions, a portfolio leadership team may need to decide between HR transformation, procurement workflows, or enterprise data platforms. Ultimately, the portfolio layer gives leadership a mechanism for making those trade-offs intentionally rather than reactively. A year-view portfolio roadmap shows how enterprise investments are sequenced over time. That sequencing matters because not everything should happen at once, and not every initiative has the same purpose. In manufacturing, some themes may run continuously, especially compliance and resilience. Some modernization initiatives lay the foundation early in the year. Broader transformation efforts ramp later once the base is more stable. This slide shows an example of what manufacturing IT portfolio may be balancing and managing. Manufacturing execution system, standardization, quality management system modernization, cross-system integrations, plant analytics rollout, serialization upgrades, batch review automation, and cyber resilience work. The portfolio roadmap not only provides visibility, but also long-term objectives and goals. It also helps to create a prioritization process when new initiatives are requested or descoped. It also helps IT and business leaders understand how different work streams interact and where foundational work has to come first. This is where lean portfolio management, or LPM, becomes especially important. At the CIO or digital leadership level, demand enters the system from many directions. A CIO and execution team must balance and make strategic decisions on where to take their organization. Some of it is business as usual, operational work. Some of it supports cyber resilience. They may have goals to modernize their infrastructure, but they may also be balancing how much to spend on technical debt. Some of it comes from compliance obligations. Enter the lean portfolio management process at the portfolio level. Without a portfolio management process, requests often enter execution ad hoc. That creates overload and weak visibility into trade-offs. This layer helps leadership answer questions such as, what should be funded now, what should wait, and how should new demand be evaluated against current strategic direction? Within IT portfolios, leaders need to protect both stability and innovation. Flashy new AI requests may not deserve immediate priority if the organization is still struggling with fragmented master data, weak integration patterns, or unresolved control issues in core systems. The portfolio and the corresponding governance process helps the organization balance run, grow, and transform work in a more disciplined way. If the portfolio layer sets direction, the program layer becomes the coordination engine. This is where enterprise intent turns into structured multi-team execution. The program layer is most useful when work is too large, too dependent, or too cross-functional for one team alone. A strong example is a manufacturing execution rollout program. That kind of program often involves many specialized teams that need coordination: site teams, infrastructure teams, validation teams, and deployment teams, to name a few. Each team owns a different part of the outcome, but they all need to align around common milestones such as design readiness, interface completion, validation windows, training, and go-live planning. The program layer exists because these are not one-team problems. If a team cannot meet a timeline, other teams need to know. If it impacts the overall delivery of the program, the portfolio team needs to know so they can understand the strategic impact. In this way, the structure starts to create a natural pathway for these conversations. SAFe often organizes this kind of coordination through an Agile release train, or ART. An ART is a long-lived team of Agile teams aligned to one mission. In this example, the mission is manufacturing execution system, standardization, and rollout. An important heartbeat of the organization and coordinating across teams is the program increment. The program increment creates a shared pattern for how teams plan and execute, all following the same cadence across the organization. Program increments are usually 10 or 12 weeks, with the most common being 12 weeks and aligned to a quarterly cadence. Using this example, the program increment is 10 weeks long. During those 10 weeks, multiple teams move through iterations, usually Scrum iterations together. The site configuration team may prepare workflows for one site, then the next. The integration team may build and test system interfaces. The infrastructure team may prepare environments and cutover support. The validation team may plan and execution operational qualification, approvals, and activities. In parallel, the reporting team prepares production dashboards. The important point here is that the work is sequenced together, not independently. Demos at iteration boundaries improve visibility. The innovation and planning iteration gives room for hardening, dependency cleanup, and retrospective improvement. We will cover these concepts in a later topic about SAFe, but they are both key aspects of the SAFe process. The team layer is where execution becomes real. Teams manage their execution tasks. They could be user stories, technical tasks, testing, quality activities, and day-to-day issue resolution. They convert larger program objectives into working outputs. The teams generally follow Scrum principles and ceremonies at this level. The team capacity and backlog prioritization are key drivers to ensure the team can deliver the initiatives and strategic goals. This is where our Agile fundamentals and previous Scrum trainings come to light. The most important point is that team-level value still depends on how well the work connects to the program and portfolio layers above it. When I work with companies on this approach, I usually give guidance of asking this question: does this activity tie back to a portfolio initiative or objective? If it doesn't, should this activity be prioritized to be worked on, or are we missing a key activity or initiative that should be captured? SAFe does not replace Team Agile. It places Team Agile inside a larger coordination model. This is where the daily execution mechanics come into view. Let's take an example sprint board and what a team execution could look like for one sprint or iteration. During one sprint, the site configuration team may be building an electronic batch record workflow and linking it to quality approval gates. At the same time, the integration team may be defining interface specs and building the integration service. The validation team may be finalizing operational qualification protocols and executing workflow and interface tests. These teams are all working within one iteration, but the work is connected. Validation cannot execute certain tests until configuration and integration work are ready. That is why team boards need to make dependencies visible. In summary, this slide brings the full orchestration model together. Portfolio sets direction. Program coordinates delivery. Teams deliver capability. At the portfolio level, leadership may decide that manufacturing execution should be digitized across priority sites. At the program level, that decision becomes a coordinated rollout involving manufacturing execution systems, implementation, integration, testing, validation, reporting, and site enablement. At the team level, Agile teams deliver the workflows, interfaces, reports, evidence, and release-ready outputs that make the transformation real. That is how SAFe links enterprise intent to day-to-day delivery. This same orchestration concept applies to any organization or large-scale initiative. The business objective may differ, but the need for layered coordination remains the same. So what benefits does this create? At the delivery and organizational level, SAFe improves alignment between enterprise strategy and IT execution. It improves visibility across plants, teams, and technology domains. It helps organizations surface risks and dependencies earlier. It reduces fragmentation by giving product teams, platform teams, and leadership a shared operating model. At the regulated and operational level, the benefits are even more important. SAFe creates a stronger structure for coordinating IT, quality, validation, and operations where releases affect regulatory posture and production stability. It improves ownership clarity and helps ensure that documentation, readiness, and operational impact are managed together. A useful industry example comes from Philips Healthcare, which publicly described using SAFe in a regulated environment. In this example, Philips Healthcare states that SAFe helped them outperform their yearly objectives, improve quality, and ensured they didn't have any non-compliance. They go on to say that most importantly, it brought back trust from the markets and customers that the organization can deliver to their promises. Let's close with the key ideas from this session. Agile through 3 connected layers: portfolio, program, and teams. Portfolio aligns strategic direction and investment priorities. Program coordinates multi-team execution and manages dependencies. Teams deliver the actual work products and capabilities. SAFe matters most when work is complex, cross-functional, and highly dependent on shared systems, governance, and operational readiness. That is often true in manufacturing, but it is also true in any organization where many teams need to move together against one business objective. The final questions for leaders are practical ones. Do our biggest challenges sit in strategy alignment, delivery coordination, or execution discipline? Is current demand fragmented across too many disconnected teams or priorities? Are CIO, senior director, and director leadership layers aligned around common execution objectives? And where is scaling discipline missing today? That is the real value of SAFe. It gives the organization a stronger way to align strategy, coordinate delivery, and make transformation executable. Thank you for joining this episode of the Agile Transformation Learning Series. As always, I'm your host, Kenny Gibbons, and hope you have a great day.